It's genuinely amazing, isn't it? Just how massive Taylor Swift's influence feels right now. You really can't avoid seeing something about her.
No, it's everywhere. And that Graham Norton quote really nails it, saying she can change the economy of our country just by showing up.
Right. But then he also adds, she still seems so grounded.
Exactly. And that contrast is, I think, really interesting.
It is. So that's what we want to get into today. For this deep dive, we've pulled together some really fascinating recent clips and comments from Taylor herself. We're looking at her iHeartRadio Awards speech from earlier this year, some great bits from her appearances on The Graham Norton Show.
Always good value, those.
Definitely. And some fun moments from The Tonight Show as well.
And what's great is how these different sources sort of give us different perspectives, don't they? You see her celebrating, you see her being more informal. You get these glimpses into how she thinks about her work, her fame.
Yeah, exactly. Our mission here is really to explore her thoughts on, songwriting, dealing with fame, resilience.
And also maybe pick up on how she communicates. Because her style is so clear, it's actually a pretty good way to, learn some real conversational English.
Totally. So yeah, we'll be drawing from those Graham Norton appearances, The Tonight Show, that iHeartRadio speech, and sort of the buzz around them.
Okay.
So let's just dive straight in with the absolute phenomenon, the Eras Tour. In that iHeartRadio speech, she actually pointed out it was the 2-year anniversary of the first show.
2 years. That really puts the scale of it into perspective, the sheer endurance.
It does.
And what really jumped out at me was her calling it the most challenging thing I've ever done.
Right.
And when you think about what that involves, I mean, a 3.5-hour show.
Every night, basically.
Yeah, more shows than ever before.
Yeah.
The ambition of the production, just the length of it, touring globally, it paints a picture of just immense effort.
It really does. Makes you wonder about the stamina, honestly.
Totally. The mental and physical side of it.
But almost in the next breath, she pivots right back to the fans, crediting them for how the songs have grown over, the last couple of decades. She basically said that's what made the 3.5-hour set list even possible.
Which says so much about that artist-fan relationship. It's almost like they built the show together, in a way.
Yeah, a co-creation. That's a good way to put it.
And thinking about the scale again, remember that story Graham Norton told?
Oh, about being in Dublin.
Yeah, being the only person in the VIP tent.
Which his show and her team had organized.
Right. And someone as famous as Graham Norton is just there alone. It just highlights how huge the main event is. The focus is entirely on that performance. It sort of dwarfs everything else.
Yeah, even the usual VIP stuff.
Crazy.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit from those massive stadium shows to the more personal world of songwriting.
Right.
Taylor's been re-recording her first 6 albums, obviously.
Yeah.
And she said on Graham Norton, it felt like homework on songwriting. That's such an interesting way to phrase it.
It really is. That homework idea, it suggests she's not just redoing them. She's actively, studying her own earlier work, but with the perspective she has now.
Like analyzing her younger self's choices.
Exactly. And remember, this whole thing started because she wanted to own her music after her masters were sold away.
Which also shows some serious business sense alongside the artistry.
Definitely. And she mentioned the support from iHeartMedia, how they prioritized playing her versions. She said she found that so heartwarming.
Yeah, it felt like a bit of industry solidarity there.
Right. Recognizing an artist's right to their own work.
And it's not just about making identical copies either. I mean, look at All Too Well.
Oh, yeah. The journey of that song is amazing.
It starts as this 4.5-minute fan favorite on an album.
Mm-hmm.
Then, because the fans just kept talking about it, it becomes this epic 10-minute version.
Which everyone wanted to hear.
And then she goes and writes and directs a short film for it. She called directing a natural extension of her storytelling. It's like the song just kept growing.
That's a perfect example, isn't it? How that fan connection can actually shape the creative output.
Yeah.
And it also shows her pushing her own boundaries, moving into filmmaking. It kind of raises questions about how artists can keep interacting with their work and their audience in new ways.
Okay, so that leads us nicely into thinking about fame itself. On that same Graham Norton interview, she shared her strategy almost.
The zero strategy.
Yeah. If you give people one thing to talk about, they multiply it by 50. If you give people 0 to talk about, anything multiplied by 0 is still 0.
It's surprisingly blunt, isn't it? And very strategic for dealing with that constant scrutiny.
It is. It's like a mathematical formula for managing the gossip machine.
Yeah, a very pragmatic approach. By being really careful about what she shares. She's trying to, control the narrative, stop things getting blown out of proportion.
And you can connect that to Shake It Off, right? She explained this song is about dealing with all that noise, the gossip.
Mm-hmm. And how it's not just her dealing with it. She made the point that it's something everyone faces.
Right. Don't get bogged down by it. Handle it with humor, strength.
Exactly. But then on the flip side of controlling the narrative, she does these really personal things with fans.
Like the 1989 Secret Sessions.
Yeah. Inviting fans who'd never met her, who were just dedicated online to her house to hear the album early.
Graham Norton joked it was the worst idea ever, thinking about the chaos.
Yeah. But she shared how the fans reacted on their blogs afterwards, saying things like, very dramatically, we all died from excitement.
It shows how much those direct personal moments mean, both to her and the fans.
It does. It's a fascinating contrast, isn't it? The tightly controlled public image versus these incredibly open, authentic connections she tries to foster.
Definitely a balancing act.
It raises that question about how you navigate being a public figure while still trying to have genuine interactions when everything can be, amplified instantly.
Of course, dealing with that level of fame isn't always easy, and she's shown a lot of resilience over the years.
For sure.
Remember that rhyme she mentioned from the Reputation era? There will be no explanation. There will just be reputation.
Ooh, yeah. That was a real statement, wasn't it? A conscious choice to just step back from engaging with all the chatter.
Let the work speak for itself kind of thing.
Exactly. Instead of reacting to everything, she just put her energy into the music and the tour, which, takes a certain kind of strength.
And she shares these slightly chaotic moments, too, like the Rolling Stone interview story.
Oh, the one with the car accidents.
Yes. 2 separate accidents with the journalist in the car in one day. One her fault, one not.
It just highlights how unpredictable life can be, even when you're, Taylor Swift.
And her first thought was panic. This is not going to be a good cover story for me.
Which adds that touch of, dark humor to a pretty stressful situation.
Totally. And then there's that amazing story about her screen test for Les Miserables with Eddie Redmayne.
Oh, God, the teeth paint.
The brown teeth paint. Looking near death, she said.
Singing opposite this huge star, feeling totally out of her element.
It's just such a funny, relatable picture of being in one of those really awkward, unexpected moments life throws at you.
It is. And these kinds of stories, the funny ones, the slightly messy ones, they give you a more rounded view. It's not all perfect and polished.
Right.
And her ability to tell these stories now with humor really speaks to that resilience. It's a good reminder for anyone listening that even when things feel awkward or out of control, finding humor in it later can be a pretty good coping strategy.
Absolutely. Okay, let's shift just a little bit now and focus on some of the actual English phrases that pop out because she communicates so clearly.
Yeah, her way of speaking is very expressive.
In that iHeartRadio speech, talking about the tour being tough, she used the phrase rise to the occasion, meaning, stepping up when things are difficult.
Right. Like you might say, when faced with a tough deadline, you just have to rise to the occasion. It's a great phrase.
It is. And she also said the fan support just blows my mind.
Another really good one. It just means you're completely amazed.
Yeah, like the view from the mountaintop just blows my mind.
Totally. And a really nice, sincere way she expressed gratitude was, I appreciate this more than you know.
Oh, that's a lovely one. You'd say that if someone really helped you out. Thanks for everything. I appreciate it more than you know.
Exactly. Maybe you at home want to try saying those. Rise to the occasion.
Blows my mind.
I appreciate this more than you know.
Okay, now from the Graham Norton interview. She used bogged down when talking about gossip.
Mm-hmm. Which means getting stuck in something, usually negative stuff or too much detail.
Like, try not to get bogged down in the small problem.
Right. And she also talked about surrounding myself with people she trusts.
Which is about making a conscious choice about who you spend time with.
Yeah, like she makes a point of surrounding herself with positive influences. Let's try those too. Bogged down.
Surrounding myself with.
And then quickly, from the Tonight Show clips, she talked about having a growth spurt in her early career popularity.
Meaning a sudden, rapid increase. Like, that startup had a huge growth spurt last year.
Yeah. And she also joked about an early performance, saying she'd blocked a lot of that out.
Which we all do, right?
Yeah.
You subconsciously forget embarrassing stuff. I think I block out most of my teenage fashion choices.
Definitely relatable. Okay, let's try those. Growth spurt.
Blocked a lot of that out.
And what makes listening to her interviews so useful, I think, is just how clear and relatable she is, even talking about huge things like fame or complex feelings.
Yeah, she tells stories really well, uses humor. It makes it really good practice for hearing authentic conversational English.
Yeah.
You pick up on the tone, the way phrases are actually used.
Exactly.
So as we start to wrap up this deep dive, it feels like these interviews really show a journey. Immense hard work, that really strong fan connection we talked about, and a pretty resilient way of handling the pressures of fame.
Yeah, definitely. And her songwriting reflections, plus that clear communication style, they offer insights into her life, sure, but also just into how English works in real conversation. Absolutely. Which brings us to maybe a final thought for you to consider. Think about how Taylor Swift revisits her past work. The re-recordings, the All Too Well film, how she reimagines it. Could that maybe inspire you to look back at your own experiences, maybe your own creative projects, from a new angle? Is there a 10-minute version of your own story or something you worked on that might be waiting for you to explore differently?
That's a great question to ponder. Something to definitely think about. Thanks so much for diving deep with us today.